Have you ever tried to forget someone, and yet they keep showing up in your mind? While you're driving, while you're working, while you're listening to music, even when you're doing absolutely nothing. And the strange part is, sometimes it isn't even someone you dated. So why does this happen? Why does one person keep replaying in your mind long after they're gone? Maybe it was an ex, maybe a crush, someone who rejected you, someone who only stayed for a short time, or maybe someone you never truly had at all. Yet somehow, your mind keeps returning to them again and again and again. Is it love, attachment, loneliness, or is something deeper happening beneath the surface? Because the truth is, when you can't stop thinking about someone, it usually isn't just about them. It's about what they made you feel. Imagine this. It's late at night. You aren't really doing anything, just scrolling. Then suddenly, you stop on their profile. You tell yourself, just 5 seconds. But 5 seconds becomes 20 minutes. You look at old photos, old memories, little moments you hadn't thought about in months. And somehow, a random conversation or a simple smile suddenly feels important again. And before you even realize it, your chest feels a little heavier. A random smile, a simple conversation, a moment that didn't seem important at the time. And yet, those are often the memories that stay. Not the big moments, not the dramatic ones, just the small things. The way they looked at you, the way they said your name, the way they made an ordinary day feel different. And suddenly, you're thinking about them all over again. So you try to distract yourself. Work, the gym, friends, movies, anything to stop thinking about them. But somehow, your mind always finds its way back. And eventually, you start asking yourself questions. Why am I still thinking about this person? Why can't I move on? Why does someone who may not even think about me anymore still live rent-free in my head? If you've ever felt this way, you're not crazy. You're not weak, and you're definitely not alone. You're human, because emotional connections don't disappear the moment we decide they should. The heart doesn't follow logic that easily, especially when something ends without answers, without clarity, without closure. And that's where the real reason begins. One of the biggest reasons you can't stop thinking about someone is because your brain hates unfinished stories. Think about your favorite movie. Imagine it suddenly ended halfway through. No explanation, no ending, no resolution. You'd probably keep thinking about it. Your mind would keep trying to finish the story. Relationships work the same way, especially the ones that almost happened, the ones that ended suddenly, or the ones that never really became anything at all. Your brain keeps searching for the ending it never received. That's why unanswered messages can hurt more than honest goodbyes. Why situationships can be harder to forget than real relationships. Why uncertainty feels so powerful. Because uncertainty creates loops. Your mind keeps asking, what happened? What did I do wrong? What if things had been different? And every unanswered question becomes fuel for another round of overthinking, another late-night replay, another imaginary conversation, another attempt to solve a mystery that may never have an answer. But sometimes, there is no puzzle to solve. And here's the difficult part. Sometimes, there isn't an answer waiting for you. No final conversation, no perfect explanation, no hidden truth that suddenly makes everything make sense. Yet your mind keeps returning to the story again and again, hoping that this time it will finally find peace. But healing often begins when you accept something uncomfortable. Some questions may never be answered, and some stories were never meant to have a perfect ending. Now here's something most people never realize. Sometimes, you aren't actually missing the person. You're missing the way they made you feel. Maybe they made you feel wanted, special, seen, important, alive again. And for a little while, life felt brighter because they were in it. Maybe your life felt ordinary before they appeared, Then suddenly, someone was texting you every morning, checking on you, making you smile, giving you something to look forward to. And without realizing it, your brain began connecting that person with happiness, with comfort, with excitement. So when they left, it felt like something much bigger disappeared too, because your mind wasn't just losing a person, it was losing an experience. The anticipation, the butterflies, the late-night conversations, the feeling that someone cared. And that's why the absence hurts so much, not because they were perfect, but because of how you felt when they were around. Sometimes you're not grieving who they were, you're grieving who you were with them. Think about it for a moment. Certain people become unforgettable, not because they were perfect, not because they were your soulmate, not because they were meant to stay forever, but because of who you became around them. Maybe you felt more confident, more hopeful, more alive, more like yourself. And sometimes, what you're really missing isn't them. It's the version of you that existed during that chapter of your life. There's another truth that can be hard to accept. Human beings often want things more when they become unavailable. It's strange, but it's true. The moment someone leaves, their value in our mind can suddenly grow, and that's when memory starts playing tricks on us. The beautiful moments become brighter, the happy memories become bigger, and slowly, the past starts looking better than it really was. You begin remembering the good parts, the smiles, the connection, the possibility. But you forget the confusion, the mixed signals, the disappointment, the anxiety. Instead, your mind creates an edited version of the story, a highlight reel, a perfect montage. And before you realize it, you're no longer remembering reality, you're remembering a fantasy. Sometimes the person living in your mind isn't the real person anymore. It's a version built from memories, hope, imagination, and loneliness. You start asking questions like, what if we tried again? What if things were different? What if timing was the only problem? And little by little, you fall in love with potential instead of reality. Because reality ends, but imagination can continue forever. Have you noticed something? You usually miss people the most during quiet moments. Late at night, long drives, empty rooms, silent weekends. Not because they're suddenly more important, but because there's finally enough silence to hear your own thoughts. And in that silence, old memories become louder, old emotions become stronger, and someone from your past suddenly feels close again, even if they're nowhere near you. And sometimes, the person isn't really what you miss. What you miss is having someone. Someone to text when something funny happens, someone to tell about your day, someone who made ordinary moments feel a little less ordinary. Because when life starts feeling emotionally empty, your mind naturally returns to places where it once felt connection, even if those places no longer exist, even if those memories eventually became painful. Because emotionally, something familiar often feels safer than nothing at all. That's why healing becomes so difficult when one memory becomes your only source of comfort. Your mind keeps revisiting the past, not because it wants to hurt you, but because it's looking for warmth, looking for familiarity, looking for something that once made you feel okay. But real healing begins when you slowly build a life that doesn't depend on old memories to feel complete. New experiences, new goals, new connections, new reasons to smile. Because the less empty your present becomes, the less attractive the past feels. Now here's the ironic part. The harder you try not to think about someone, the more your brain thinks about them. Let's try something. For the next 5 seconds, don't think about a pink elephant. Seriously, don't do it. What happened? You pictured it immediately. That's exactly how the brain works. The moment you tell yourself, I need to stop thinking about them, your brain hears, this must be important. And then it brings the thought back even more often. This is why forcing yourself to move on rarely works. Healing isn't about fighting every memory. It's not about pretending someone never mattered. And it's definitely not about erasing the past. Healing happens when you stop giving those memories so much power. When you let them come and let them go. Without chasing them, without analyzing them, without reopening the wound every single time. And little by little, something beautiful starts to happen. The memories remain, but the pain becomes quieter. The thoughts remain, but they no longer control you. And then, one day, you'll notice something different. You'll think about them, and it won't hurt the way it used to. Their name won't make your chest feel heavy. A memory will appear, and instead of sadness, you'll feel peace. Not because you forgot them, not because they suddenly stopped mattering, but because you finally stopped carrying them everywhere you go. And that's when real healing begins, when the memory stays, but the suffering leaves. So, if you can't stop thinking about someone right now, please don't be too hard on yourself. Your mind is simply holding on to a connection that once meant something, and that doesn't make you weak, it doesn't make you broken, it makes you human. Some people leave physically, but emotionally, they stay for a while. And that's okay, because healing is rarely dramatic. It's gradual, quiet, almost invisible. You won't wake up one morning and suddenly forget them. That's not how healing works. Instead, little by little, their grip on your mind becomes weaker. The memories become lighter. The emotions become softer. Until one day, you realize something has changed. The person who once lived in your mind every single day is no longer the center of your story. They've become a chapter, a meaningful chapter, but still just a chapter. Not forgotten, just no longer painful. And maybe that's what moving on really is. Not erasing someone, not pretending they never mattered, not forcing yourself to forget, but finally finding peace without needing them anymore. If this video helped you feel a little more understood, consider subscribing to the channel and tell me in the comments, what's the hardest part about forgetting someone? Because sometimes the first step toward healing is realizing you're not the only one carrying these feelings. Take care of yourself.